right, so welcome everybody to the Resiliency Command podcast. My name is Travis Sobivaro, and I'm the founder of Resiliency Command, a project that started almost 10 years ago when I got discharged out of the military. And I'm here with my co-host, Jace Contreras, who's a current purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself.
Hello everyone, my name is Jace Paul Contreras. I'm a first degree purple belt. I'm also working with my business partner Travis at Resiliency Command. And also thanks for having me on here, Travis.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'll go ahead and tell y'all about how I found Jiu-Jitsu and a little bit about my background, which has been a little stagnant recently as far as Jiu-Jitsu is concerned, but I'm back now. So I started Jiu-Jitsu back in 2014 when I was going through a hard time in my life. I was getting discharged from the military for a sleep disorder. Because when this particular one that I have, when you get diagnosed with it, per the regulations, they have to kick you out of the Air Force, or at least put you through a med board. And I was a little stubborn at the time, and I didn't want to go before a board in my blues uniform and beg for another job. I wanted to do security forces or nothing. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be a defender. I wanted to carry a gun every day. So if I couldn't do that, I didn't want to do nothing. I was too stubborn to stay in. But I never used to really understand the saying when people say the Lord works in mysterious ways. But and it wasn't an easy time after I got out, and it took a lot for me to get to where I'm at now. So I fell into a lot of depression and stuff, and a lot of drinking and smoking after I got out of the military. But at the same time, I still was able to crush some goals. Because when I was in the Air Force initially, one of my goals was to get a bachelor's degree and become an officer. So when I got out of the Air Force, I went to University of Phoenix. I got a bachelor's in management. And this was, of course, a few years after. I didn't start going to school until 2016. And 2015 is when I had the big blunder trying to start a business, in December of 2015. So after plummeting my credit score from a 780 to a 540, I thought it would be a good idea to get a bachelor's degree in management. And luckily I was able to utilize all my credits that I got from the Air Force, because they give you college credits for all of your military training. So I ended up with a minor in law enforcement. So when I started school, I got out of the military, I already had 60 credits. I knocked out 60 credits while I was active duty, man. And and I just had to finish out the rest of my time to get my bachelor's. And I worked in a management job for a little bit, but it was managing union employees in a laundry facility, and they worked really old school. They did it 50s style labor. Almost nothing was computerized. It was a disgusting place to work. It was hard to manage those union employees. They were very disrespectful, very unlike managing military employees. And your hands were tied in a lot of situations due to the union and stuff, and I just hated that job. And sort of had a mental breakdown. And that led to some other things that created rifts in the marriage too. And that's when I found out from the VA. I went to the VA to try to get help, and they started asking me a bunch of questions, and they're like, yeah, we think you're bipolar, and you're manic right now. So they got me on Abilify, and that was a hard adjustment. That was the first day on that. It was I was so tired, I was nauseous. I could not get out of bed. I had to go have a smoke to try to quell the nausea, and it was ridiculous, man. But in the end, it's helped keep me more balanced. And then been playing guinea pig, with secondary medications to try to combat some of the depression and the lows and stuff. And but where I'm at right now, man, I'm on a pretty good mix. It took a long time to get on, to find the right medications and stuff. And for the sleep disorder, I'm on some good stuff for that too. So I just gotta say I'm really blessed to have the VA. They've taken very good care of me. I've got my disability from them, and I've got my GI Bill, and and so I recently got divorced, and recently started seeking God, and a lot of things have become more clear to me. I was in cybersecurity school recently, and I just was drowning in it and losing interest in it very quickly. And I was just wondering to myself, just because I've been doing a lot of journaling and like self-reflecting and a lot of prayer, and I just like came to this realization, like after a couple weeks in of my spiritual journey, like I just started just hearing from God through these self-reflections, these, and prayer, and like that cybersecurity is not right for me. I need to pursue what's going to make me happy, and what's going to make me happy is helping other people. That last year in the Air Force was the happiest I've ever been in any job. And to me, it didn't even seem like work, because I volunteered my way into the gym because they took away my guns when they diagnosed me with a sleep disorder. So that really made me into a rage and made me angry. I didn't do anything about it. I didn't like run around like causing trouble, but I was just an angry person to be around. And so I found jiu-jitsu at that time. But what I was getting at is that, man, we're going to have to make an edit here because I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
You were saying about, like, the part of your journey, that how you were seeking God.
Oh,
and also
yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So like I was saying, thanks, Jace.
Yeah, no problem, brother.
That happens to me a lot, man, with the, my brain. But, so yeah. And like a couple weeks into this spiritual journey, like, not only have I started to feel different, like physically, like I feel like not so alone, I feel like this lightness in my chest, and I know a lot of people are going to roll their eyes, but I physically feel different since I started not just praying and pretending to be about it. Like, I've been trying to put God into all my works, and it always brings me back to Proverbs 16:3. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. So for me, that means I have to center all my work and publicly embrace God without fear, and to serve God, because our culture is in decay right now. Like Kyle Sefcik says, he's been touring around the country. He's seen, what's going on in the streets. Mm-hmm. And if you just watch the news, that's an indicator too. Just like all the headlines that are on today, everything's going to crap. And so, yeah, coming back to this proverb, like, I don't feel like that's my mission, is to do cybersecurity. I feel like I have to use my greatest talents to be my mission. And I'm good with instruction. I enjoy public speaking. I really, really enjoyed helping people physically with physical discipline and mental resilience and stuff. Like, just one example, like, so I was saying before that I worked my way into the gym in my last year in the Air Force. I volunteered until I made myself so valuable that they said, hey, if it's okay with your commander, you can come work for us full time, and we'll make you part of the staff. We'll make you honorary force support, which is, force support is the career field that does the dining facilities and the gyms and like recreation stuff. That's all run by force support. So super essential for morale and people's well-being. So I was super blessed to get in there, and I ran this program called Back to Basics, which was basically like a remedial fitness program that helps service members go from a failing fitness score up to a passing. And I could tell you from the metrics that I gathered, on average, people would go from failing after a couple months of my program to over 91%. It was a pretty good success rate. Yeah. So not only did they just go to passing, they got over 90. And when you get over 90 in the Air Force, you don't have to take a PT test for a whole year. If you get less than 90, you have to take a PT test again in 6 months. So everybody was real happy to get that 90. They're like, yeah, I got to worry about it till next year. But then I tell them, like, don't let it fall off. But those that had started embracing complex and dynamic stretching, like, I would give them some basic yoga moves that I learned that for me are very beneficial, and just breathing and that the breathing aspect of yoga, like, is very relaxing. Even if you're doing something that's a struggle, like a plank,
Yeah.
or a tree pose, you hold your arms out straight long enough, and you apply all these different things. They're gonna start to burn, so you're gonna have to like really just like focus on your breathing, and it helps you with reflecting too. But it just releases a lot of like tension. One place that I found a lot of people had trouble with is in their neck.
Mm-hmm.
Tension, I feel like stress like builds in the neck a lot, like just from work and life and stuff. Like, so yoga is kind of like it was essential back then for me, and it's essential now. I've sort of, like I said, once I got into welding, because that's another thing I went to school for too. So I mentioned earlier how I was a manager at a laundry facility and had the breakdown and whatever. And then later that next year in 2020, I had enrolled in a master's, but I wasn't feeling any of the coursework because all of it was like, so you've been a manager for 10 years and you're going to do this, this, and that. And it's like, no, I actually haven't, so I can't relate to this coursework.
Mm-hmm.
I was barely a supervisor in the Air Force for like a minute. I scratched the surface, not really much of a manager. So I dropped out, and I found a welding school that was across the street. It's like, that's always been on my bucket list, man, watching like Orange County Choppers and like, the race car shows, the custom cars. Like, man, that's the whole reason I wanted to get into welding. And to this day, I still want to build a cross car. It is a long-term goal of mine to build one from KJ Racing and slap like a Hayabusa motor in it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A fast cross car, a 2-seater, street legal rocket.
They're just fast racing in NASCARs,
man.
Just
They're so lightweight, and you just put a motor in there, and then you slap a turbo on it, and before you know it, you've got a damn supercar that only cost you like $20,000.
Oh dang! Like,
yeah,
I never heard $20,000, but hey.
I mean, if you build it yourself, you do all the fabricating yourself, you save thousands and thousands in labor.
Yeah.
And like, for the KJ Racing fans, like that's a rite of passage, is to build your own first. And build one. If like, to build one is a rite of passage, And they have a partner package with Rogue Fab, where you can get a pipe bender. So that's one of the things I want to acquire someday. But I know we're getting off track. So if I could finish up my story, and then I'm gonna let Jace talk for a little while about his background. So where I was at with my spiritual journey and stuff is I dropped out of cyber, and I realized I have to. My mom said something too. She was like, I don't, like she said, Resiliency Command seems like would make you really happy. Like, I wish there was a way you could pursue that. And so I clung on to that, and I prayed on it, and I thought about it, and after a couple of days, I realized, I was like, man, I have to drop out of cybersecurity, and I have to become as well qualified as I can to support Resiliency Command. And the only way I can see to do that is to sign up with Angelo State University and get a bachelor's degree in exercise science, and that's what I did. I'm signed up with them now, and I'm starting in June.
Woohoo! Attaboy.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. That's my path that I'm on. I'm going to be pursuing this Resiliency Command thing full time. So let's hear about your background, Jace. How you started in martial arts. You can talk about your employment history, childhood, spirituality, anything you want to cover, man. Go for it.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Travis. Yeah, growing up, I was born in Sterling, Colorado, in the year 2000. And also, I remember growing up was always wrestling. That was all part of my family. It's my uncles and my mom, and also my dad's side. And my dad, soon to know, was he was very hard on us in sports and like very strict, and also on our diets and also what reps we had. And I can just remember like when we would go to bed at night, he would wake us up like 2:00 in the morning.
Dang.
He's like, hey, gotta get up, get going. Let's make this runs. Do your push-ups, like. And then after when we got done the runs, and also when we had breakfast and whatever, we went to school, and then after we still trained again.
Yeah.
And I just remember all the hard times. And I remember when Joel was about 12 years old, and I was about maybe 8 years old, or whatever. We ate like Skittles in our birthday cakes because our birthdays were a week apart, but we were 4 years apart.
Oh.
My dad caught us, and then he's all like, y'all better get up on the jump rope and handstands, and also give me so many reps on the wrestling and the techniques. But yeah, I've been doing it for wrestling. I've been doing it for 22 years, since 2 years old. I competed all throughout Nebraska, Colorado, North and South Dakota, pretty much some similar states, and also freestyle, folk style, and also Greco-Roman. And what got me into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was I moved here in San Angelo 9 years ago on September 6, 2016. It was very new. It was a culture shock at first, and the weather was different than where I'm from, a lot hotter, less colder, just a different environment. But the people in Merton, Erie County, which I feel so grateful for, what they've been with me through my journey, and what they're watching of my career and what I'm about to do now. And also, I did a lot of sports. I did track, I did football, and I was so good at like 2 sports. And then at the time I was a 4.0 GPA student, and I also served kids and also read books and also helped teachers out. And even on my 7th period, it was my downtime, and all I did was watch like wrestling or MMA and also like inspirational quotes and also spiritual, like what does God has in store in my life. And also by 2020, when COVID hit, it was really the hardest point and lowest point in my life as well. I remember when the next morning when they says, "Oh, we're closing everything down. Parents, students, please stay at home. Will be assigned to you." I just remember there were workouts, and at the time, I remember I was just feeling so sad because I couldn't see my friends, or I couldn't see my teachers. I couldn't see personally when my parents went to work. But the one thing I was blessed that I had all my animals, and also that I went outside. But the saddest thing was I couldn't go outside the gate. But then on our graduation ceremony, it was at that point after I walked across that stage, I'm like, dang, what am I gonna do? Like, what's my future? And I did this powerful prayer when I was speaking to God. I was like, God, after when I didn't receive the call of the Nebraska University, which it was a different university, not the Cornhuskers University, they said, we'll give you a call back 2 weeks since this virus is a very serious condition on you and plus many students. And I was like, okay. So I waited 2 weeks, and then they didn't call me, and I was just like, what do I do now? And then all of a sudden I had to get a job, which I started in taxidermy.
Oh, wow.
Which That's I started crazy. Taxidermy, but minimum wage, it didn't like reach like, which I barely like was able to afford to like with me and my mom, like to afford the house or to afford the bills, like what I had to do. But then when I got on both my knees and I was crying, I was like, God, I don't know where you're taking me on this. I said, but I trust you. And I told him this, I said, if you take me in a sport outside of work to accomplish something, but also create a legacy. And I told him this, I said, if you let me make it, even a big event where we can actually be more successful, and I told him I would tell everybody it was you. And that's what I really did. And he put me in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I knew in that very moment when I look on Google, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pops on my phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, this has got to be a sign. And I remember I go in, and I was at Seeds 13 at the time. And I remember going in, I first met Coach Conrad Duran, which I remember he was wearing albino preto white gi, a brown belt with 2 stripes. Walks up, and I saw his one cauliflower on his left before his right side was all cauliflowered up. And I remember his asking me, he's like, you ever done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? In which I have also an MMA background, which and I told him, I said, yeah, I've done a little bit, but no, he's like, okay. So I remember brought in, and the environment was so good. Like, I was surrounded by many people who had that drive and also had that good exercise, and also
that camaraderie, man. That's like something you don't get a lot of places, and that's something I definitely miss from the military. So like, that's something I've needed in my life for sure.
Yeah, and also, but it was just much more than that. Just being in the gym and wrestling, like it's like you're like the loneliest person in the sport, along with boxing and MMA. It's just only you have to tear it up. And it's so nice when you're in that family aspect that they support you. And even when you're down, your coach is with you. They're like, hey, man, like, hang in there. Even the ups and the downs, and also the injuries, and also the hard reps, the blood, sweat, and tears, and the happiness behind it. And also, each time when I went to work, I was so happy that I could not wait after I got done with work. I would just go to practice. I would just go to practice. Like if it was my full-time job, I was going to practice. And then I knew in that very moment, and I told my family, I said, I'm going to be the first entrepreneur in my family to open to this, and this is what we're on this journey, on this path, like to create something, but make more a difference in like, you know, spiritual wellness or like, or behavioral substance and everything else. And also, and then and so my employment was, when I spoke about earlier, was taxidermy. I did that for a year, and I'll never forget, I did like skin animals, but I did like structural stuff, like for like what nature would really look like on a foam, when you foam on the wood sculpture type of deal, and you visualize like how it would look like if you were on a mountaintop, or if you were in the woods, or if you were in the middle of the desert type of area, what wildlife would look like. And so that, and then all of a sudden, then I went to Tropical Smoothie, was trying to find something better, and then after that was then I moved up to Nebraska for a little bit, was a meat business. And at first I had a bad feeling about it because there's something that wasn't right, even with my uncle's situation. And this is where I get in the spiritual aspect. I didn't know what it was, but like it's like I felt a darkness within my uncle. I didn't know what it was. I felt something was wrong. Something was telling me, like, hey, this ain't a good place. You better get out of there. Like, you know, stuff like that. But I realized it was a demon taking over my uncle's body from him doing the actions of getting lots of trouble. And then that's when I knew that I didn't want to, like, be in prison or go to jail, something I wasn't even involved in. Where I barely had a room. I barely had any money. And then as soon as I got back from Nebraska, where my parents, when they came and got me, I was an electrician, and like now I'm a structural welder at this little very temporarily point. But also like, you know, it's just, this is what, and also we're also chasing a dream that it could better our lives. And in my life, I remember telling people that I never want to work for anybody else. Just be like, you know, for you and I, just like be our own bosses. Never had someone tell what to do, and that's why I love about the sport and MMA. There's no one that can tell you what to do. Not someone that would send me here, send me to that, or send me here, or send me there. It's like we're free. Like we come and we go as we please. And even when I get ready to compete, I just feel like shackles and chains are starting to come off, or I'm like carrying a cross or something. And I do not feel pressure in there. You know, sometimes there's some individuals, you know, when they get to that point, they just feel, they have that fear, like, saying, like, and they feel that pressure. They're like, I don't want to be here, but I got to do it anyway. But no, for me, it's a bit different. I feel free in there. And also to work on this process with you and I is just like, I'm all full ins on in a leap of faith.
Yes, sir.
That's all it takes is that leap of faith. And I was praying for us too, and I knew in that very moment God was also talking to me. He's like my children. He's like, this is what I want you to do. He's all like, since you all are in the process of trying to make something happen, you can't do it by yourself, but with me I would guide you. And so that was, and then in my spiritual journey, growing up as a kid, I always go to church. I always wanted to learn the word. I never complained. Even at 3 years old, I never complained to go to church. I always wanted to learn the word. And in growing up, I experienced a lot of kids and a lot of families were being so blessed and by miracles. And I come from a working class family where we didn't have a lot, though. And there was a lot of times of them struggles where we didn't get the chance to go out or have enough food or have any heat. The only thing that was keeping like us going was we had the equipments, and also we were putting up fences for feedlots. And like, I'll never ever forget a smell of a feedlot, because it kind of reminds me where I come from, like where I come from, that working class, and here we're on this path to be the first entrepreneurs like in our families to ever accomplish, you know, in our lives, and also have God in the middle, no matter what the outcome, no matter what obstacle comes in the way, you know, that I know there's the light at the end of the tunnel if we just keep moving, just keep grinding, stay humble, but also just keep striving. And also, what inspired me the most was I remember asking my dad one time back in 2006. I asked him. I said, Dad, is there much more to this than just this trade or this family business? And I just knew when he looked at me in that very moment, he was almost like in tears, but was kind of like at the same time, it was at the straight look.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But like, I think in that very moment he knew, and also everyone else in Sterling, Colorado, if y'all are on this, please listen carefully, that I always told people that I was going to be something more than what my family couldn't accomplish. And my mom, she uses my passions and my talents as if it was her second chance in life as well. And I remember one Thanksgiving in 2003 when my grandma Bain was alive. I remember she made our Thanksgiving dinner, the turkey. She made our Irish ancestors from Dublin, Crumlin, Ireland, called Apple Crisp, which was on the streets of proper number 12, like Irish 12 is what she used to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when she called me in, and I said, Grandma. She's like, what is it, my grandbaby? I said, Grandma, I'm going to be called the Jet one day. No one's ever going to see before. I'm going to value so much in our family. And I told her this, I would be the first entrepreneur in our family, so we don't have to worry about struggles and also the hunger, what we have to fight for, and what we're desired to be. And many years go by, and I remember after a year after I was in Mertzen, it was my sophomore year. It was my sophomore year. I remember my coach, after I was beating like almost everybody, and I was breaking so many records, but I still had a humble heart at the same time, because I know there was a lot of potential tough guys like in track.
Mm-hmm.
And my coach comes up to me. He's like, Jace, may I ask you something, sir? I was like, what is it? He's like, how would you like to be called the Jet? And I just remembered it was an answered prayer in that moment. And I remember crying in tears. I told my coach, I said, Coach, I've been dreaming that since I was a 3-year-old boy. And now in this process, though, too, that we're also making a dream happen while we're in the process of it. And it's very important that we reached out, but also help people that are having a hard time, or a teenager, or someone that doesn't have the money or doesn't have the proper tie, the uniform, or whatever. But why not give back to that?
Yeah, exactly.
Give back to those people that don't have nothing, but we give back and we tell them, like, hey, brother, or hey, sister, I was in your shoes. I barely had anything. And I just think it's a good thing. We set examples for our people that are in the military and who are not in the military, or kids that are going through anti-bullying, plus helping college kids, and also many people to get out of the world distractions, like to send them somewhere, but also to train them hard, drill them hard, kind of like they're almost at a breaking advantage point, but it'll give them another aspect, changes their lives, and then they have a story to tell, and plus the humbling beginning times, and also I just love the fact, and also Coach Conrad sets us something, an example, which for 4 years now, training with him, and also the rest of our family at Redemption, also they're supporting us as well, was he said, lead by an example.
Yeah.
And it struck me so hard, and I was like, lead by an example, because you never know who you may aspire or who you may help, but that will help you out along the way. And also to just keep grinding, but also, and he also said this too, for those who are competitors or that wanted just to defend themselves, or whatever the case scenario is, but also, like, if you're not consistent of a technique, or if you watch videos and then you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and that, but then your actions, you don't do it. So without consistency and the dedication, also with the grind, you will not get anywhere.
Yeah.
Like in that personal aspect. So.
And I wanted to touch on something that I thought of while you were talking, but I didn't want to stop you, so I just wrote it down. But it's crazy how small the world is sometimes, how connected everything is. Like, I didn't say where I first started, actually. I have to give them credit. Coach Tanchi, Coach Caesar, over at Zombie Jiu-Jitsu in Abilene, Texas. That was my last base when I was active duty, was Abilene, Texas. My first one was in England. My son was actually born there, and then my daughter was born in Abilene. But yeah, Coach or Professor Conrad used to be there at Zombie. I think he was like
Yeah.
he was like a blue belt when I started out as a white belt. You
Yeah.
know, and now he's a black belt, and I'm still a blue belt. But you know, I took a lot of years off. You know, like I said before, I got in my own way. You know, financially, emotionally, like with relationship, like I just kept putting my own obstacles and making excuses about like why I can't put in the time. You know, and then eventually once I got into the welding job, I really got super depressed because I hated production welding. I hated working for other people. With my sleep disorder, working 12-hour shifts was not for me anymore. I just couldn't do it. Even in a loud shop, man, I could fall asleep just about anywhere.
Yeah, and also, yeah, and like the same thing like you said, I just want to appreciate everyone at Zombie, Professor Caesar, and also everyone, Coach Conrad, and all the coaches, Coach Carlos, Coach Lindsay, everyone else. We just thank you all for the help and also what you teach us and many down the road, even supporting us in here. I just feel very grateful, like that we were surrounded by people that have that drive and that hunger, but also to help us succeed. You know, whatever we want to accomplish in our life, even as a high athlete competitors too, but also that you and me are willing to make a change in this, you know, worldwidely, and the tours, and also later down the road the tour, and also just many other things, which it makes me excited about, which I cannot wait till this is just the beginning, and I just cannot wait many years down the road, and like it will grow more and more and more.
Yeah,
and that's what excites me the most, though. And one of these things that might stick in your mind, there's a lot of people that say, oh, 99% is the mental and 10% is the hunger. And in my mind, I mean, the math might not be right, but in some people case scenarios would have to be, oh, I give 110, I give 120% no matter what I do. And in my mental and in my mind, in my soul, that's still not enough no matter what you do. Even a normal person, 9 to 5 or 12-hour shit job.
Yeah.
I always say, and I remember I wrote this down, what my late friend Don Pornoff said to me, that saw potential, that saw something in me that he never seen a kid inside before, and I was 15 at the time. He says, no matter how life gets hard, and no matter what obstacles you go through, you always give 180% with Jesus in the middle. You know, and that struck me so hard, and I remember, and then he passed away right about a month before I moved here in San Angelo, and he sent me a letter, and he said that same quote. He's all like, remember that, Jace, remember that. So that's always stuck with me. Then it's been my famous inspirational quote, but you have to give my good friend Don Bornoff up there, which hope he's proud of me up there, you know, and also on this journey as well. So I know this will spike a lot of people's mind when they hear this. So. Yeah,
for sure. So we sort of covered our backgrounds, you know, and our current goals, like and where we're trying to go. So that this sort of leads us right into and if you watched episode 0, you know, and if you haven't, a little warning, it's kind of a death by PowerPoint. It's 23 minutes long of me talking into the camera. But if you don't feel like watching a boring PowerPoint, that's fine, you know, because we're going to be hashing and rehashing, you know, the phases of our plan. We're not going to lay it all out at once because we don't want to bore you with too much ambition. We want to stay grounded, and be realistic about scaling and about our capabilities.
Yeah. All
right. So I'm going to get into phase 1, and part of phase 1 actually goes all the way back to Resiliency Command's inception, and when I plummeted my credit score investing in this computer, which cost a few $1,000s, and then a graphics tablet that I used to have that since was destroyed. I'm not going to get into that, but I also got, and I got that graphics tablet, that Wacom. It's like basically a laptop and a graphics tablet in one. I got that so that I could design the rash guards. And I designed some rash guards, and I had them made by On the Mat in Southern California. I went down there and I inspected it myself, because I actually used to be a quality control inspector before I joined the military, because I had a dream of becoming a film director. But when I got down to the film school and took a tour, and they told me I was going to owe $90,000 for an associate's degree with no guarantee of a job, I quickly let that dream go of being a director, and just went to work in the factories. I'd taken a little course, warehouse technician, which teaches you how to drive a forklift, how to read micrometers, calipers, measuring equipment, for like CNC machine stuff, and I had this good mentor there at that first job, and I'll never forget that lesson. Larry, if you're up there, he's gone too, death by overdose on drugs, but he was a real hard worker though, and he would always tell me every day. He would say, "Travis, don't be like Chachi." Chachi was the other temp worker. He would take naps and stuff, and just hide out in the middle of the day or whatever. Don't be like Chachi, man. Always work hard, because you never know who's watching you. And so I took that really to heart. And in a machine shop, when it's cutting metal, it puts off this smoke. It goes up in the air, but when it comes back down and it settles as this greasy looking dust, and it's very slippery. So when you mop the floor, you have to take it seriously, and you have to put a lot of elbow grease into it, and people are going to know if you didn't, because they're going to slip on the floor and bust their butt. And so yeah, I took that job seriously, and there was this lady every morning who would walk through. I didn't know who she was. She had her coffee, and then one day I got called into her office, and I was like, oh no, what did I do? And it turns out she sat me down, and she said, I looked into your background, I called the temp agency, it looks like you're already qualified. Would you consider coming over to quality control and becoming a full-time employee? I said, ma'am, I don't even need to think about it. You give me, $3 or $4 raise. Let's do it. And so that's how my career in quality control started. And so yeah, I have a little bit of background in just about everything. So it was only natural for me to go down and want to see the factory, and meet the people in person, make a trip out of it. So when I was down there getting the rash guards, I also, took a lesson in OC Muay Thai. Shout out to OC Muay Thai. The owner there is awesome. He's the nicest guy ever. He gave me some good business advice too, like he said, don't overthink. Sometimes you just don't overthink things. Like if you have a good following, sometimes all you need to do is just put a logo on a shirt, and it'll sell, because people believe in what you're doing. You have to take care of that part first, though, is what he told me. And one thing I didn't have back then, and really like pretty much like I said, since I was 8 years old, and I may not have talked about this yet. I think that was in a separate recording we did. But basically, I could tell you, like, I don't remember the date, but I could tell you I remember where I was. In Oklahoma, visiting my cousins. I was out walking on the streets alone, with no shoes, like Huckleberry Finn, like we always did.
Just like bare feet on
yeah,
canvas.
Just bare feet, man. And yeah, I don't know, for whatever reason, like I guess feeling like that whole victim thing, like if God's real, why did these things happen to me? Why am I this way? Like, how could he do this to me? So I just remember turning my back on the church and God, and like making this decree that I wasn't going to believe, and I was going to reject it all. And that probably didn't help me, because I never really let it go, in that I never opened myself up again until after I started getting divorced. And I really, like, I've always had an open mind to like concepts of like higher beings and stuff, but I've never opened my heart up to it, though. It's like Did you say something?
Oh yeah, and also it's very important, like, too. I first had that experience when I was 15, and I remember I had a guy named Bill, that he was a good guy though too, and I went to church with at Fort Morgan Cowboy Church, and he asked me this very serious question. He's all like, if you allow God in your heart, like, where would you go? And so I didn't have an answer, because I didn't know what the answer was.
Yeah.
I know stuff like in the Bible, but I just didn't know deep down what the word actually meant.
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, oh, you're going to hell. And I was like, oh no. I was like, who do you allow in your heart to really change your life? I said, Jesus. He's like, you're right. And that's when I did that prayer. I don't remember the words, like what the prayer was, but man, when I first led that actually changed my life though too. Later on down the road, like, I just love hearing people's, like, what their spiritual journeys was, like, on even the rough spot, like you, for example, and also even for me too. And like during my teens, like, I would like do things like, I'd probably like just be on dating apps, and I would just be with just like do whatever I got to do, not even doing it Christ's way, which I didn't realize it until. Then my parents were like, hey, you need to be in Bible study. You need to like be around people. Also meet Pastor Kurt, have a mentor. Also have a mentor in jiu-jitsu, but also have a mentor like in and outside the church. And I remember I felt the presence of God when I requested a prayer. And I met these marriage couple one time. One was named Sharon and one was named David. And they put their hands on me, and I remember Pastor CJ, that he came over too for the prayer. And also that's when after Coach Conrad's mother passed away, so I was praying for him and his family because I know he's going through a difficult time, even now going through a difficult time after him losing his mom and also his aunt as well. And I remember when I was doing the prayer, all of a sudden I felt this energy that I haven't even felt, and I knew in that moment it was the presence of Jesus himself, and it was that unconditional love that I never felt before. No matter how many times you messed up or whatever you did when you were young or you're old now or in your 30s or early 20s or shucks or whatever age you're at, it's not too late to change, and also to allow him in your life. And once you allow him in your life and you do this prayer, I mean, we all have broken God's law. And we just go to him. The scripture says we go to him as we are, and it doesn't mean you have to like change or you have to get up or be in a fancy suit or a shirt or whatever, comb your hair or change the attitude aspect. No, like go to him as you are. And I was listening to a Bible quote from Billy Graham, which is a famous pastor. He passed away in 2018, but his word, even when he read in scripture what he told everyone about us, what it said in the scripture, when he said we all have broken God's law, and as the time come to him as you are, like go to him now. Don't wait till tomorrow or next week or next Sunday. Go to him today. You'd be like, God, I'm a sinner, and I am so sorry. I'm trying to break these chains of what the devil has tempted me, but I can't do this alone. I need your help. I need your power. And you'd be like, Lord, I need mercy, you know. And the one thing, when people think repentance, they think like, oh, if I just ask forgiveness, I go back to my old ways. But that's not the case, though. At the same time, it's that commitment you're willing to change from your actions, your attitude, the words that you say, you know, to make that different change. And also to look in the Word more. Look in the Word and also just treat people a lot better than what your old self couldn't treat. Or do something a lot better what you couldn't do, but also with God in the middle to guide you from when you feel tempted. And there's times I was tempted in my life where I was so upset, and I was like, no, you evil spirit, I ain't doing that. Many times when I said no.
Yeah.
Like when I said no. And it's hard to say no, because sometimes the enemy tempts us, like even whispers, like saying like that it's the biggest lie.
Yeah.
Of all.
Yeah, you know, like it sounds probably like cheesy to people, but like it really did take like me losing everything. Like I lost my family at the same time I lost a job, like you know what I mean? And it really just took a lot in 35 years for me to start opening my heart up to God, and really like so at first I was just like, I wasn't like asking for a sign. I mean I was, but I wasn't. I was really more asking for some guidance, for some help, like for strength. Like how do I renew myself as a person, become basically like a whole new person. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey though so far. Like I just feel completely different. Like anytime I feel like tempted to give in to something weak that I would have normally done, like just start drinking again or whatever, like I'll just say prayer and I'll start journaling, and then maybe like 30 minutes later, man, I'll just feel over it. I'll just feel completely just like I got this, man. Like that was nothing.
That's just very powerful, like for what you're saying though, when you feel like that tempting moment, but then you have to seek the prayer, but also like read what's also in scripture or on a Bible app that you need to know. But after that, when that happens, like it brings you a lot better. But like, and at the same time, for a lot of people, even Christians today, it's hard to be like a follower of Christ. There's times, even for myself, there's times I do things I don't realize I'm doing it. That is not like a godly way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, but then I asked for that guidance though too at the same time. And baptism though, it's like what it does. It's a you're leaving. My pastor Kurt explained this to me. He's like, you're leaving from one life to this over here, and you're transitioning to over here, saying, I'm gonna follow Jesus no matter what the outcome is.
Yeah, that reminds me of like another thing too that I wanted to touch on. It's like ever since I started committing, like I'm not saying I don't feel lows, but when I do, like, you know, I just seek prayer and whatever. But for the most part, I've been great, like doing good, like I have no fear now. Like I have like fear to start a business. I have no fear to embrace God publicly, which I've done on all of my social medias. You know, going right back to Proverbs 16:3, commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. So to get back on our phase 1, I know we got sidetracked a lot, but I feel like all this stuff is like important and relevant to our mission and what we're doing here. So to be practical, so touching back on, like I said, Resiliency Command started like in 2014 really 2015, after I'd been rolling for a year and I started to realize this vision that, you know, with my instructing in the Air Force, like I knew I wanted my black belt so I could be an instructor someday, so I could open my own school. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I just I was a little too hasty, and there's another piece of scripture here about being hasty. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. I was hasty, and I sure as heck dove myself into poverty. Like, there were times we were buying groceries on credit cards, man. It was bad.
Yeah.
I put my family in a hard place. But what I was getting at is that, you know, back then I invested all that money into these rash guards, and so now we're left with about 120 American-made rash guards ready to go. And it's not to say that I'm the greatest designer there is and you should buy my rash guards because it's a great design. I would ask you to consider buying one of our rash guards to support our mission.
And also to support us along the way, you know, with local churches and everything, just to help to make the world a better place for everyone, and children, even the military or whoever's not in the military as well. Because
I know I've said that, you know, in my my pitch video and stuff, that we're gonna get a truck. We're gonna get a used military truck, and we're gonna run jiu-jitsu out of the back of it like this. But phase 1, we have to be realistic. Mm-hmm. How do we get started before we have the truck? How do we start this movement before? How? Well, our first step is acquiring 10 by 20 worth of jiu-jitsu mats, which is enough space for 2 instructors to do one-on-one with 2 students.
Yes, sir.
So that's not a very hard goal to achieve. All we need to do is sell these 120 rash guards, so I could spend about maybe $1,200-$1,500 on these mats, because they're expensive. For a 10 by 10, it's like $700. So that's about $1,500 that we need. Mm. And the rest of that money, I'm going to invest back into the business by generating rash guards. And we're going to ask people this time. We're going to seek feedback. We're going to put lots of prototype designs out. We're going to say, what do you guys want? What do you think would be cool? Like, what kind of designs do you want to see? So, and then another thing I'm going to do with the profits too is I want to share some of the profits with a scholarship program.
Yes.
And I don't just want any old kid to just be like, hey, it's me, I'm going to do it. No, I'm going to make them write an essay. They're going to have to compete for this scholarship. And if they're not willing to write an essay, well, then they don't need my money. Yeah. But basically, like, I want to see some well-written essays from some kids articulating as to why they need jiu-jitsu in their lives. And why they've been seeking some personal development, you know, why they might also benefit from some spiritual guidance as well. And one of our long-term goals, and we're already setting the groundwork for this, is to incorporate clinical, studies within our program. So we're going to be collaborating with healthcare professionals. I've got a certified certified behavioral health consultant out of San Antonio, who's I've made contact with on LinkedIn, and she's ready to start working with us and collaborating on any way she can help. So my idea is that we'll set up a safe space, probably if we're at somebody else's facility, it'll have to be a private room. But, I'll bring my Wi-Fi hotspot, my mobile hotspot that I use for the business, and a laptop, and they can have a safe, secure conversation with a healthcare professional, and we will not have to keep record of any HIPAA information. That healthcare professional can physically keep that on their computer, secured, and they can walk the client through standardized questionnaires, like for anxiety and depression, and heck, we could even throw in a fatigue one. But I don't know, that might have to come from a sleep specialist. But no, the main idea is those two, the anxiety and depression questionnaires, so that we can start to capture metrics. Before and after, like, people keep coming back. Like, let's say we have a customer that wants us to train jiu-jitsu in their backyard. We show up with the mats.
Yes, sir.
They can't afford a gym, but we'll come to them. We'll work something out. We'll work a deal out with them. And we start training somebody's loved one in jiu-jitsu, and at the end of every session we can have them do a meeting with the healthcare professional, and we can capture these metrics and track how it's improving their lives, and of course we're going to get their testimony on video and stuff if they're willing, and we'll put that out there too so you guys can see it for yourselves. So that's basically we're at about an hour right now, if you can believe that.
Wow, an hour.
Yeah. 51 minutes.
Yeah, 51 minutes.
So I think it's about a good place to wrap up. We touched on phase one, our practical approach. So if y'all wouldn't mind, just please sharing the podcast, sharing the Etsy store, which is going to be live here tonight. I'm going to wrap it up. It's already there, though. I mean, you can go find it and follow it and just wait for our products to drop. It's called Resiliency Command. And I'll put the spelling up just in case you're wondering. All right, that's how you spell it. Just type that in basically anywhere, and that's how you find us. Resiliency Command. And right here, I just want to touch on our motto: Defectum est temporalis, which means failure is temporary.
And then failure is one of the most wonderful teacher at the same time when you look at it, though, too. Sometimes you have to get it wrong to get it right, but and also we're here if y'all can also help us out, wherever community, we just want to help out the community, so we would appreciate y'all help us out.
Yeah, definitely. Get on that Spotify. There's a Q&A section on our Spotify. Find us on Spotify. You can find that through my Instagram profile, my Linktree, or you can just go to Spotify and search for Resiliency Command, and our podcast will come up. So if you have any questions for us, or any questions about jiu-jitsu, or personal development, spirituality, like whatever it is, however we can help, you drop a question in there, and we'll get back to you. Hey, brother, it's been a great show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Later.